Yo, yo, everybody. Welcome to, I think this is my first Instagram Live. We're going to be conducting an interview here in a second. So hang tight while I get our guest. Yo, yo. Let's see if James is there.
Oh, let's flip that so I'm in the picture.
What's going on, James?
All right, how's it going?
I'm
You doing,
good.
Robbie? Oh,
Excited to do this little interview. This is my first Instagram Live, I think.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So
great.
for everyone listening out there, we're going to be talking about dating and relationships, confidence, all the good stuff that I'm always talking about. James, I met you through Brian Bajan, who is my former business partner, the guy who helped me found Inner Confidence way back in 2009, and I've been, professional dating and relationship coach since then. It's been a minute. I've
Yeah,
had quite the ride. So why don't you introduce yourself to the community here?
yeah. Thanks for having me on, Robbie. Yeah, I'm James Ferrigno. I'm a dating and relationship coach, and started working with Brian Bajan, as you mentioned, years ago. And yeah, I help men mostly. I've been working with couples for a while, but mostly right now, I'm helping men be able to date and have relationships for the most
N-
part.
Nice. Um, what's your kind of backstory? How did you get into the space?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but to keep it short, let's see. I had been teaching special education for quite a few years, and I was looking at dating myself, and I thought I just had this idea that I could be better at it, that I wasn't very good at it, and I was dissatisfied that I couldn't attract the women I wanted to. I said, and I started to get a little older, and I went, wait a second, I'm going to die someday and just completely miss out on this, so I'm going to change it. So I just started doing Google searches, looking around, and then I went through. I found a couple of coaches, and eventually went through a few people, and eventually landed on Brian, who really, really did a lot. Really showed me what it was really going on at a deeper level than just lines and memorizing things and acting like something you're not, and
Right.
which is really the core of my business, the core of what I do, the core of my life. Really, um, it's called the Authentic Life, and it's about being authentic and really. And the core of that is learning to be authentic in the learning to be yourself, so that you can be authentic.
It's
So
funny that it's actually kind of hard to be ourselves, which sounds
yeah,
ridiculous, right? But especially when you're trying to meet someone, like if you want to approach a beautiful girl, or you're talking to a guy who makes you a little bit nervous because maybe you have an agenda, or you're maybe just trying to connect with them, like, but the more you're in your head about that, the less we are, like, the less ourselves we are, right? Which is like,
yeah,
I figure I'm the most myself when I'm with people who I feel totally comfortable with, right? Like when I'm with my wife or my parents or other my very close friends. And a lot of us don't feel comfortable being ourselves with our parents, maybe because that relationship could be, you know, it could be interesting, right? But so guys always say to me, they're like, I just there's that poor advice out there that says, oh, if you want to be good with women, just be yourself. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, you know, ourself or myself used to suck when I was intimidated by someone. So I'm guessing you kind of found the same thing. Is that what you're kind of where
Yeah,
you were going with that?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, everything you said, right on. Yeah, in fact, this is my first thing since I just came out of 2 years of long COVID, and there's a lot of brain fog involved and things like that. So I'm a little nervous right now because this is my first thing out of, oh no, my brain's going to stop working and, forget words, which that's part of it, you forget words.
Totally,
And
because we haven't met, right? And we're
yeah,
chatting, and there's people watching, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
always,
put all those
and
together.
that's why I like doing these sorts of things. Like social media is a great, it's just a great kind of microscope to go under. And then you watch the video later, and you're like, oh my god, I hated the way I sounded, or I hated the way I looked, and you catch all those judgments, and
Yeah.
you can learn a lot just from your own judgments, of course.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've been making a lot of YouTube videos, and I keep going back, and I'm really not satisfied with any of them. So, but you learn, you go, and they get slowly better, as you move forward,
Yeah,
over
I found that
time.
I used
So,
to hate the way I sounded and the way I looked on video, and now
hmm
I don't. Um, and that could be a function of just me getting over it, or maybe I've improved. But either way, the end result is positive. But yeah, I couldn't stand the way I sounded, the way I looked. And most people I've spoken to feel the exact same way. They're like, yeah, when I first time I heard myself or watched myself. So it can be a super therapeutic and I don't know if you want to call it healing, but transformative process just to get up on stage like that or to do a public. It's no different than public speaking, right? You get on stage, you feel all that fear, anxiety, and do you let it stop you or not? Do you get up there or not, sort of thing. And I know that's what a lot of Brian's programs are about. Fearless. Can you tell us a little bit more about, um, I guess, like kind of what happened? What was your journey like when you started, becoming more authentic and transforming yourself? Maybe the steps you took or some of the milestones along the way.
yeah, I'd say one first big milestone was I actually went to therapy and did EMDR to deal with my past childhood trauma. I had lots of childhood traumas. That's where a lot of the nervousness and inauthenticity was coming from. And that was transformative, and that allowed me to really be able. I had struggled with severe anxiety, crippling anxiety actually, and that helped me get through that. And then I still had all these problems around women, and then I went to sex therapy, and a year in sex therapy really was a huge milestone. That just really transformed.
What do you do in sex therapy? I've always been interested in that. I've had people
Yeah,
accuse me of being a sex addict and these sorts of things in the
yeah,
past, and and then I read the book The Truth by Neil Strauss, who also wrote The Game, and he
yeah.
talks a lot about sex therapy and how it's a great place to pick up women, which is kind of
Oh,
ridiculous of
okay.
me. You can imagine it.
Didn't know that, but
But yeah,
that's
I'm really
right.
curious. Can you share a little bit more about that, like what the process is like, or what is like, who like
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just curious.
yeah. It was really great. It was somatic sex therapy. So it was actually the Somatica method, which is Celeste and Danielle, and they teach you how to really. They start from zero, so you learn to be able to sit in front of a woman, look in her eyes, be able to touch her, and it's like being able to do things and learn to be comfortable with them. So just repeating it. And they also talk very basic, important things like how do women like to be touched? How do they like to be stroked? And then how do you practice on their body, right? So you're actually doing it. And
Was this traditional sex therapy, or this was a sort of more like a program?
yeah, more like somewhere in between.
Okay.
Definitely on the cutting edge. More not like
And
a
was
regular
this
therapist. So this is a someone that you're actually touching.
and this is
So,
specifically for men, or is it both genders?
both genders.
Okay, got it. So yeah, I'm curious. So are the women doing the same exercises back, or they have a different sort of
It's interesting. It's
program?
individualized, so I never really saw anyone else actually doing it. I know that
Oh,
there are coaches or therapists of both genders, and then they work with whoever's appropriate. But they really, really teach you from the ground up exactly what to do. And I found like with guys, it's like that's critical, and it's like having that piece of information can be important for a lot of guys because they might not know how to touch women. How do women like to be touched? What's the best way to do it? What's something? Because guys will, some guys especially will be very awkward and grabby, and, too rough usually.
And that's not the thing that guys are usually going to get like positive feedback on, right? Like if you if you're doing it well, then you're probably continuing to do it well, and it's not really an issue. But if you're doing it poorly, most people aren't really going to tell you that you're doing it poorly. Occasionally, but I think a lot of women would just not call you again, not see you again, or just be like, oh, that was awkward. I'm not going to follow up. So something like that is super valuable, where guys can get that direct and honest feedback on how they're being perceived and how they're coming across.
Yeah. They also tell you how to like the be in your body. So how to like feel your emotions and be in your body through a process. So be in your body, be aroused, have something sexually arousing happening, and just keep remaining in your body. And over time, when you do that, you gradually become more comfortable with it. I think it works through a lot of that shame.
And they're finding most people are in their head.
Yeah.
Rather than, what do they do to like get you out of your head and into your body?
So I just have you pay attention to different parts of your body. So like paying attention, especially to your lower body, to legs, to your genital area, to the bottoms of your feet. And then they will also touch you. So they're touching your legs, right? So that your attention is there.
Gotcha.
So you can become sexually aroused, but nothing's happening there. So you have to you're sitting with that and then having your attention on your body. So there's a couple of exercises, there's a breath work exercise you do. So you breath work while that's happening.
Okay. So you did the sex therapy thing. What happened next?
So after the sex therapy, then I went, that was also just hugely transformative. We do these weekend workshops, Friday to Sunday night. And they're clothing optional workshops. Everyone's unclothed pretty much. Except usually make 70 to 100 people at a workshop. And they really teach you some of basically the initiation skills that we don't get in this culture, in really any cultures anymore. All cultures used to have an initiation process for adolescents to teach them how to communicate with the other gender, how to start a relationship, how to, what kind of things are acceptable in that, whatever the culture was, and how to find yourself, how to go within and figure out who you are. And that's just missing now. So you just don't have it. And I think the combination of basically the sex therapy, going to high and a lot of these workshops helped give me that, take me through that process. That's what I've condensed down to try and give to my clients as well. And the workshops were really beneficial. They tell you all kinds of communication skills, listening skills, talking about sex. You spend a lot of time talking about sex, talking about what you like, fantasies are, and like getting up in front of a group unclothed and talking to 100 people about your deepest shame and stuff like that. And that can be really transformative.
That sounds
Yes, the public speaking naked about your sexual shame. That'll
get you past it, right? Exposure
Yeah.
therapy to the infinite degree right there.
Yeah. So
that's gnarly.
Yeah. So I
So
did
how many
many,
people
many
were
of
there?
those. Huh?
So you're literally standing naked in front of a bunch of people telling them about your sex fantasies?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do that. It's not required.
Okay.
But I volunteered for it every time because every time it just really helped me transform.
Yeah, I imagine after doing that, pretty much doing anything would be pretty easy. I can't think of a lot of things harder than that.
Yeah, I had already done many years of public speaking. Was really good at that. I was in politics, but yeah, that was a whole new level of it. Yeah, it's 70 to 100, sometimes a few more than 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that
very
was
cool.
great. Yeah.
How much of the process for you was like going out and approaching women and facing rejection head on. I mean, that's kind of like one of the main reasons to approach women, not necessarily just to get dates, but just for the transformational nature of facing your fear and rejection head on. So, what can you speak a little bit to that as well?
Yeah, exactly. It was so hard for me at first. So hard. It was impossible. You know, really, really difficult to do. And yes, similar to the workshops, it's like once you can do that, like I did not do it to get dates. I do it to push myself. And at first, and I just started slow with warming up. I also did some work with Matt Artisan, as he's really big on teaching you how to warm.
Oh yeah, he was
And
one of my very first clients back
oh
in the
yeah,
day. Yeah.
oh he's great. Um, and yeah, that was really hard. So there was a lot of warming up. So I did like going around and doing the thing that Brian does, the 100 highs. Um,
Hmm.
I had this
Social
amazing
freedom exercises.
experience. Hmm.
Yeah, one of the
Amazing
ones.
experience with that.
Did you
Hmm?
ever do the one where you're lying down on a sidewalk pretending to be dead?
Oh
And
no, I never did that one.
that can be a good
Okay,
one to
that's good.
start with because it's not like you have to really do anything. You just lie down in a busy area pretending you're dead, and you do it. You try to stay down as long as you can. And obviously, people are coming over at some point and being like, "Are you okay? Should we call police? Should we call paramedics?" And you're just lying there, but you start feeling the tension,
Yeah,
right? And you start giving less of a shit, which is the point of all these exercises, is to just kind of get detached. Even that I think the first time um, Brian did that exercise, I was with him and kind of pushing him to do talk to 100 people as fast as you can. And it
yes.
was cool to watch his mood change throughout, from feeling like totally locked up and awkward and nervous to probably after the 30 or 40th one, he started feeling good. And then by 60 or 70, everyone was stopping to talk to him, and that it was hard for him to just do the high because his vibe was so much better that people, the energy he was putting out was very inviting. Where I think a lot of guys, when they first start approaching, their energy is shit, and it's coming from a place of taking rather than giving. And no
Yes.
woman or no person, right, wants to feel like they're getting, you know, their energy stolen by some vampire, right? So,
Hmm.
did you find that shift was happening? Did it take you? How long did it take you, kind of, for that?
Yeah, it took a while, and doing the 100 people was really beneficial for me. I went out in Union Square one day. This was pretty amazing, and I decided I went. I'm just going to keep going. So I went to like 350 or something people,
Wow.
somewhere over 300. I kind of lost track around then. And what happened was everybody. It really was this internal transformation, and the feeling was that all of these people are like my friends, just anyone. They're all, I can just walk up and talk to any of them. And what happened was they started coming up to me. Once I got up to the higher number, people were just coming up and talking to me. It was really interesting. Just my energy changed, it was just more to it. I think
Hey,
when you're
you're doing
more in a
something right
giving,
at that point, right?
yeah, you're in a giving space and people are coming up to get what you're giving.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like this is my town. I'm the mayor. I own this place. I felt just as comfortable just surrounded by 1,000 strangers as I would sitting on my couch, and that was really fun.
Nice. So you're doing that. There's some other social freedom exercises that I find are a lot. Well, in some of the immersions I do, once the guys get pretty good, I challenge them to do some tougher stuff. So I
Yeah.
think the hardest one, and I'll give credit to Sasha Day Game for this one, is you walk up to a couple and you're like, "Hey, you guys look like a really sweet, cool couple. I'm trying to look for a gift for my girlfriend. Having trouble picking it out, and yeah, I was just like, do you know any good stores?" And you continue picking your nose because I was
Oh
thinking about
wow.
this place, blah blah blah. And you're like, "Well, all right, well, thanks for your help." And then you go for the handshake at the end, and it's pretty fascinating how the majority of people will shake your hand even
Wow.
after seeing your finger up your nose, just because it's that social protocol. You're inclined to do it anyways, right?
Yeah, there's the pressure there.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
you
Yeah.
can also kind of taste the booger after you're picking your nose, you know. So
Oh my God.
there's that one is
That's a
good.
great
One
one.
other
I've
one I'll
not
just
done
throw
that.
out there as
Mm.
just for fun is the one where you you're like, hey, do you know where the nearest STD clinic is? I've got this rash. You know, it's kind of like this. You start describing it. They're like, I don't want to see that. But yeah, Sasha's come up with a lot of hilarious things like that. So, anyways,
Yeah,
sorry to cut
that's
you off.
fun.
What kind of happened next on the journey? So you're going to sex therapy, um, dealing with the approach anxiety, and
Hmm.
kind of talking to strangers head on. What else?
Yeah, then it was approaching women, and then gradually up to women I found more and more attractive. And then, just for me, there was a certain type of woman that was the most difficult, and it was women that were usually tall, looked like a model, were dressed in really expensive clothes, so they kind of had everything going on. They're affluent, they're beautiful, their makeup is perfect. And a lot of them are like, so there's a lot of judgment that comes from them. It's like you know, so, so you have to bring a lot to that sort of approach.
Yeah, they're a
Uh,
little bit. Well, I found that the women who get approached the most, which are usually the best looking women, are a lot actually easier to approach because they know how to reject guys. They know how to play with you, and they can do it with style and grace. Like they'll reject you in like a way that doesn't feel as bad as if
mhm.
you approach someone who's never been in that situation before. They just might kind of freak out and say, "Don't talk to me" or run away, or so
Yeah,
for
yeah.
guys it's kind of counterintuitive because we think like, oh, she's too beautiful, I have no chance, I shouldn't even bother approaching her, I should warm up on someone I'm not so attracted to.
Hmm.
And it's counterintuitive, but that's definitely not the the way to go. You're just way more likely to get massively shut down and then feel even like more of an asshole for doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think there's like levels to it. Just my experience was that it was harder for me to approach the ones I found more beautiful, but they seemed to actually getting, I don't know if they were approached less or, but I'm also, in San Francisco, it's, there's not a lot of approaching going on. It's pretty uncommon. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe like you're in New York or something, right? So women aren't used to it. And I think that changes the map a little bit. Like, because the really beautiful women, like if they're in New York, they're getting catcalled, talked to all the time. In San Francisco, like I know that when I've talked to women, they will usually say that they don't get approached at all unless they're in a bar at night.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, one reason I'm such a big fan of approaching women during the day versus other ways. I find that there's basically four ways you can approach women. You can approach them online. You can approach them in a bar, a nightclub, or a festival, or some sort of like social event. You can approach them during the day, which is somewhere it's non-social. You're not expecting to be hit on like you would be if you go out to a bar, or at least
Yeah.
you'd be. It wouldn't be weird if a guy came up to you at a bar, but if a guy comes up to you at a Starbucks, it's weird, right? And then the
Hmm.
last way is through your social circle, so friends, families,
Yeah.
acquaintances, right? But if I always found that for me, the first thing I did that got me the fastest results was approaching women during the day, just because most guys are too afraid to do it, and therefore because I did it, I got these extra kind of brownie points for having the balls to do it.
Mm.
Because what everyone's doing is they're just Tinder, Bumble, Happen, just bombarding messages, and it's tough because women have a filtering problem, right? They've got to weed guys out,
Yeah.
and men have a recruitment problem. And you look on some of these sites and it's like 70-80% men, and it's just really hard. What I
Yeah.
see across the board, online dating is just really, really hard, and there's not a lot of people doing day approaching. So if you can, it's not easy to do it, and you're definitely going to go through a learning curve and a process where you're going to get rejected a lot. But once you can get over that, I think it's the most effective way to meet people. So I don't know,
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree with you. That's what I've spent most of my time doing. I mean, yeah, I went through all the apps and learning to text and all the stuff, and learning to set up a profile, and just such a headache for very few dates. I mean, if you don't look, it basically boils down to it's all the picture, I think.
Right.
And if you don't look amazing, I'm probably not. definitely not in that upper echelon. I'm not one of those guys that you're just going to get all the swipes. So I finally gave up on it entirely. I don't even have to date now. And the night, there's just so much competition, and plus, I'm getting older now. It's just not even my scene. I don't even want to be there. So
Right.
that doesn't help. So, but during the day, it's like there's just, especially in this city, you're the only one doing it. There's nobody else. These women have never been approached.
Right. So if you can do it in a
And
way that doesn't creep them out, you win,
yeah,
right?
and it's great for your personal development. It's so challenging to do that once you can do that, you can kind of, what I did originally was I was out there doing that all the time. I wasn't getting any dates from it. I was getting phone numbers and stuff, but then I would go to meetup groups and go to things like that, and it's just I was everything was super easy because now
You're
these
warmed up
weekends
at that point.
or whatever, yeah. So it really helped with that. So I go out and practice the really hard stuff in the day, and then go out to one of those meetup groups at night, and it's really easy to just.
I found when I was single, before I would go on a date, I would walk around and do some approaches to warm myself up, and those dates always went so much better. And a lot of the time, I
Mm.
got a number before the date with a girl I was more interested in than going on the date with, and then it totally loosened me up for the date. It was just like I'm not attached to the outcome whatsoever because I've got this other option here.
Part
So
of your brain is out the door, yeah.
right. I remember one time I was in New York City and I was waiting for my Tinder date to show up at a bar, and I was,
Mhm.
doing some warm ups, and I totally hit it off with this girl.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, listen, this sucks because I have a Tinder date showing up in about 5 minutes. And
Mhm.
she was like, let's play a prank on her. Let's pretend that I'm your girlfriend, and I'm going to show up like 3 minutes later and call you a cheating bastard and make this big scene. Um, and so we did. That was kind of a mean thing to do to this poor Tinder date, but she walks in and she's like, "What the fuck you doing? You cheating son of a bitch!" Blah blah. And it was great, but
Wow,
unfortunately,
it's
yeah.
amazing. That's like a sitcom plot.
I thought it would end in a good, situation with me and the girl, but I don't know.
It
I
did not.
think it was definitely the funny thing is the Tinder date girl wouldn't leave. Like, even though she thought that that was my girlfriend, she was like, well, fuck that bitch. Like, should we go hang out? I'm like, come on. I was trying to get rid
Okay.
of her, of course, but that did not work. So,
You never know. That's the thing. You never know what's going to happen.
yeah, totally. Um, all right. Well, so what happened next on the journey?
The journey. So, yeah, so next, I was going out doing a lot of the practices, did a few boot camps. Then that's when I started probably working with Brian was the next milestone and going to the workshops experience, I think, with the first one. And then doing the connection where with the models where you're standing in front of them just completely blew me out at first, but it was just really transformative. And that changed everything for me
Where
because
you're standing in front and doing, they call it soul gazing or eye gazing. You're
mhm,
essentially just about an arm's length away from someone and you're just staring into their, well, they say stare into the left eye because that's
yeah,
more of our right brain or connection creative side. And you just stare for, how long did you do the exercise? Because when I've run it, sometimes we do 5 minutes, sometimes we do 30. I think the most we ever did was like an hour.
mhm.
But even 30 seconds it's a pretty crazy experience.
Yeah, I think I did one that was, I'm not sure how long it was, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to eventually like feel the connection with the woman. And I'm very empathic and I have a lot of intuitive skills. So I was beginning to see, I was getting images. I could start to tell what she was thinking. And it really started to be this deep connection. And then I started to actually feel her emotions and I could feel the connection in the gut, in the heart, in the throat. And it's like, it just blew me. I didn't know that existed. I had no idea that you could connect to somebody like that and that you could you're just merging. And that that changed everything. So that was my goal, to continue to do that. So then that's what I would do when I approached women. That's what I did on dates. I had whole dates where I would walk in and just connect with the woman like that, and I would say almost nothing. I'd hardly talk date. I would just, it was crazy. I would just turn it into that. I wanted it to be that again. So I would just look at their eyes, be very relaxed, and just connect with them. And I got a lot of responses like, "Who are you? What's happening? What?" They get very confused, um,
I have
in a
I
good
have
way.
a
Yeah,
I have a bad story about that. I creeped the fuck
yeah,
out of one of my neighbors doing that. Um, I had just
yeah.
done that in a workshop when I was so many years ago, and my parents' friends had a daughter who was close to my age, and they came over to the house for, I don't know, for like a little party or something. And I asked this girl, I'm like, "Hey, you want to do this like cool little exercise?" And we went into the other room and we started doing the gazing, but
Oh yeah.
I didn't set it up very well, very good, and didn't really give her any context. And after
Uh-uh.
like a few seconds, she was like, "I'm gonna go." And then I still see her sometimes at like family sort of events or whatever, like break the fast. And I always think, she probably thinks I'm so weird after doing that exercise. So without context, it's important. But what you're saying is obviously you're not actually, you're just giving that energy versus actually saying like, "Hey, let's do this exercise," right?
Yeah, I'm not saying, hey, let's do an exercise, but I was doing it mostly on dates, so they
Gotcha.
knew they were dating me.
Yes.
So, but it was, and some women who just, they just really wanted to get away from that. They couldn't handle it. But the ones who could handle the intimacy would just, and wow, this is what's happening. This is amazing. They would get confused because, to a fault, I think, yeah, I've never encountered a woman that knew what it was, that had had that experience.
Interesting. Hmm.
They always, the first time, get really confused.
So you did that. That was a big shift. Anything else along your journey that you felt like was a big turning point?
Yeah, I'm sure, I have, yeah, depending on how big you want to make it, there's one every few weeks, right?
Sure.
So, but they're just always at every day almost. So, but yeah, that one was big, and I think I kind of built the way I work with clients around that. Um, and I've just, oh, as an aside, I just wanted to mention, I've had like long distance clients. So I have clients in wherever, other countries across the world, Australia, Africa, and sometimes I'll have the guys. They have to go. I'm like, well, I don't have a model for you here because you're in Australia. So go grab a woman and do it. So I'll have to have them give them the context. Sometimes they get
Oh, that's cool.
confused, and they have these interesting. And I realized I had never tried it until a year ago or something, and you can do it on Zoom. So I could guide them through that connection and adjust them over Zoom. So I don't know if you've ever done that, but it works.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Even though the camera, I guess you'd have to do it on your phone because the camera is closer to where you look. Because I know on my laptop, anyways, like where I'm looking at the screen, it's not exactly where the camera is.
Oh, well, what I would have to do is like, so I have my client and he gets, some woman he grabs off the street or his friend, and then they're standing and I'm looking at both of them standing in the picture
Oh,
frame and Zoom. And I'm
gotcha.
telling them, stand closer, adjust your head,
I see.
checking in with the woman and get them to be connected. And even that, it really works well. And they have amazing experiences because, of course, almost nobody's ever done this before. So
And
that
it's
was like,
probably a cool experience just for him to recruit a chick to do that with, right?
yeah, that's the hardest thing because that's hard for him to do usually. It's hard for the client to go out and get a woman, but I'll just
Yeah,
do
I
my
remember
program.
Brian and I were actually running an event in Amsterdam many years back, and we brought one girl with us to be the model, sort of, drill girl to help with all the exercises, but we needed extras because we had, I think, 6 guys. We usually tried to get at least, a 2-to-1 ratio. So I had to run around Amsterdam trying to recruit other girls. And, I think Brian ended up hitting it off with one of those girls, and they
Oh
became,
yeah.
they had an awesome relationship for many years to come. A casual thing, of course, from across the sea, they were, I probably approached like 30 women before finding them. Um, and they had heard about, they're like, oh, have you read the game or have you studied like pickup? And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it's kind of like that, but we're not like sleazy pickup artists. We're just trying to improve our connections and social skills. And they were all about it. They loved it. We couldn't get rid of them after the after the weekend. So just going out and like recruiting people to do these sorts of exercises, I found to be very transformational for myself.
Yeah, that's fun. I think it's fun to do that. For me, it's like I feel like I have less. I don't know. It's just easier. It's easier for me to do. So.
So, at what point did you make the transition into becoming a coach? What had you kind of decide to start doing it?
Well, I was going to all these workshops, and with different people, Brian and other people, and I found that at the workshops, this is how it dawned on me. I'd realized when there was a break after, I'm invariably sitting there with maybe three of the younger guys, helping them through things and explaining it to them. And I found that I was doing that at every workshop. And I went, maybe, maybe I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
Then actually, I after that had been happening a while, I actually went up to Brian, asked him, I said, yeah, should. That's kind of what did it.
Cool. And then you've just kind of been coaching ever since?
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice. So where can people find out? And anything else you want to leave the listeners with before you tell us where we can find you?
Um, yeah, just the one we touched on this before, but just the one tidbit I like to leave people is the just be yourself. That advice only works if you know who you are. So you're going to need to go on some inner exploration first and figure out who you are and understand your own emotions and shame and dig that stuff up first in order to be able to do that. Otherwise, that advice is
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to steal that. It only works to be yourself if you actually know who you are.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That doesn't work for most people. I know for me, I went out there. It's like I don't know who I am, and I'm going to be yourself.
right.
I don't know how to be myself.
Yeah. Who the hell am I? I mean,
Hmm.
I guess we never really know, but we get closer and closer, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a lifelong process, but you need some. You need at least a foothold in that area to be able to.
For sure. So yeah, James, drop us your links and where we can find you.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm doing an authentic embodiment program right now, and you can go to my website, which is authenticlife9, the number 9.com, and you can book a call with me or get more information on it there. And you can also just check out stuff on my YouTube or Instagram, and which is at authenticlife9, and you can also check out my articles if you want in-depth information that are on Elephant Journal. I have 8 or 10 articles on there on some subjects, and there's some really valuable tools in a lot of these articles. So
Very cool.
check that out
Um,
too. Search my name, James Ferrigno, on Elephant Journal.
cool. I have a workshop coming up as well. I wanted to mention the what I found after doing a lot of day game, and I'm curious if you found this too, was I found that I was kind of at a place where I was dating a lot of different women at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and then bumping up into issues where, they didn't like that. Right. And I wasn't exactly totally honest about that, which I should have been. Well, it's hard. It's weird. Like if you're going to walk up to someone during the day, right. And do that sort of approach, um, it's going to kind of put you into a traditional sort of dating platform, I guess you could say. Like then you're going to go on a date and a series of dates, and yeah, obviously you can drop along the way, like, hey, I'm not really into the whole monogamy thing, or I'm more just into like keeping it casual. And you're going to find other women that are of course into that too. I think even more so now that it's more it's just more normal to do that, I guess, or there's less of a stigma to do that.
Mhm.
Um, but I found that I was, I had a kind of like a hard time doing that. So I was like, well, if I could instead have women like kind of make the move on me, that would be a lot easier. And I found
Yeah.
that when I met them in a party environment, like when I hosted parties, and I could then control the ratio of the
Mhm.
party, and I can control all the variables, and I'd have women there and they saw other women that were interested in me, like my social proof or my status
Yeah.
went through the roof. So I kind of transitioned away from more of a day game style, like hunting approach, and went
Mhm.
more to like a social circle sort of approach. And I found that if guys are already, if guys have enough women coming into their life through whether it's day game or online dating, or maybe they like to go out at night, if you transition to more of that social circle thing, it becomes a lot easier, way less drama, more fun, and easier to manage. So I'm actually hosting an event on that. It's called Social Funnel Mastery, and
Mm.
if anyone's interested, it's pretty high level stuff. So I've got some guys who own like modeling agencies even coming, and it's cool,
Mhm.
very very interesting people. So you can find that at innerconfidence.com/event. And
Very good.
yeah, if anyone's interested, I'd love to connect with you over there. It's totally free. It's a free 2 day event all through Zoom, and
Oh, it's through Zoom.
yeah, it's a live
Oh, okay.
event on Zoom. So it's the first one I've done like that, so I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't. That's the first. You're the first one I've heard of having a thing like that on Zoom.
Yeah,
So
it'll be cool. Like I
that's
saw originally, saw like Tony Robbins doing that sort of thing during
yeah.
COVID. When he couldn't do his live events anymore, he just did them through Zoom, and they still did like the breakout rooms and
Um,
from from the guys I've talked to that have done these sort of things are like, yeah, it's probably just as effective, if not sometimes more effective, to do it over Zoom. And that
yeah,
way,
it's
obviously,
great.
you can work with people anywhere. So yeah,
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've been doing some of my stuff on Zoom. All of it on Zoom
yeah.
for a while.
Well, cool,
Yeah, that's
James.
great.
Thanks so much. It's been
Hey,
awesome
yeah, it's
connecting
a
with you
pleasure.
and chatting on here. And thanks for everyone who checked us out.
Yeah, yeah, it's great talking to you, Robbie.
All right, man. And everyone,
Yeah,
thanks so much. See you
have a
guys.
good one. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.